You just switched to Linux, but the terminal feels just a little daunting. Let me go ahead and enlighten you with some basic shell commands.
Class is in session. The teacher's teaching class now. I'm cracking eggs of wisdom.
And you'll be feeling at home in the terminal in no time. All right, first up we have CD, or change directory. So when you fire up your terminal in your shell, you probably end up at home. But if you want to go somewhere, it's CD and then the directory you want to go to. I'm going to go to my development folder directory and into shell. And if you ever want to go back to the directory you were just in, it's CD and dash. Takes me right back to where I was. And then I can go back to the other place again. That's pretty awesome, right? And if you ever want to go to your home directory, that is your CD tilde. That will take you home. Let's go back. And you can also change directory to absolute path. So home for me is home, Travis, and I go home. Or you can use relative. So you go two dots goes up one directory. So I'll be in home. And then one dot is the current directory. So I can go home just like that. Next up we have ls, which lists out contents of a directory. So after moving to a directory, maybe you want to know what is in there. So if I go back to dev shell ls, there is nothing in there. But remember I said there was a dot and two dots. If I do ls-a, which is all, it actually has the current directory listed in here and the directory right above listed in there. Now maybe you don't want that. You can do ls-a. It will be almost all. If you ever want to know more about any of these commands, it's obviously should be in your man pages, so you man ls. So we just did -a, which is do not ignore entries starting with period, and dash uppercase a, or dash almost dash all, is do not list implied dot and dot dot. Another one I like to use is ls-l, or if your shell has it or your terminal has it, ll is usually a alias to ls-l, which is the same thing. There's nothing in here, so that's not very exciting. Let's go back up a directory, and you can see more information about all the files and directories. So if you do ll or ls-l, it'll tell you your read, write, and execute privileges, and the owner, and the group, and how big it is. This is just a directory, so it just gives me 4 kilobytes for each one of these, even though there's more information in there. Next up, we have print working directory. So if your shell prompt, like mine, actually says tilde, which is home, dev, shell, that tells me where I'm at. But if your terminal prompt doesn't have that, pwd, or print working directory, will print out where you're at. Next up, we have mkdir, or make directory. So if you just do make directory, let's make a test directory. I call it test1. And we can use our handy ls command to list directories, or list contents of our directories, and we have test1 in there. With make directory, you can also pass a flag to it, -p. So if we do test2, and we want to create subfolders or directories, it will let you with -p. Let me show you without first, actually. So if I want to do test2 and I want to make a sub directory of test2, call it test another, it's going to error out because test2 actually doesn't exist. So it can't make test another in test2. So to do that, it's make dir-p test2, and we'll put another directory in there, and it will do it. So if we list test2, we have the other directory in there. Another handy feature you can do with a lot of Linux shell commands is using the curly braces. So if I want to make another folder, let's make this more interesting. So project, and then you want multiple directories right at that level. You can use the curly braces and then comma. So let's say we have a source and a build directory and other stuff you'd want in there. It will create all those directories. So if we do ls, here's another fun one. -r is recursive, so it's going to print out all of the directories and all the contents of all the subfolders in this directory we are in. It's easier just to show you. So ls-r listed out the 3 directories we have at this level, then says, oh, here's project, has build and source, which we just did with this handy little curly braces with a comma in between to create both those directories at the same time. And then in project, it shows what's in project build, project source, which is nothing at the moment. Test 1, test 2 has another folder, and then it shows what is in test another folder. Goodness, it's a tongue twister. Another quick bonus is if you have a bunch of stuff and you want to clear your screen, you can do clear. It will clear the screen, or there's reset. It will clear the screen, or Control L will actually do the same thing. So actually, let me just do Control L. There you go. All right, we made a bunch of directories. How about creating files? You could open up with your editor and create the file like this, and then you can put stuff in there like that, and then write and quit it, and it will be there. Or you can touch the file, and it just creates an empty file. So if we go into test2.txt, it's an empty file, but it created it. This way you don't have to use something like Nano or Vim or whatever to create a directory, which is very useful for scripting. And just like making directory, we can actually use the handy curly braces. So let's say in project, we want to create a readme.md and maybe a env file, for example. So now if we ls our project, we will see build, readme, and source. But where did the env go? When we did ls-a, that was all. So if we list out project with the -a flag, it's going to show us the current directory, the directory above it, which we're in, build, and then here's our .env file, which is hidden. But another handy shell command is remove directory, so rmdir. So let's say we created that directory, test1, we want to get rid of that. It's gone. I'm going to use Control L to clear the screen. Now, let's say we wanted to remove the project. Can't do it that way. So remove directory is very handy if you want to remove an empty directory. That's very useful for scripting, just in case you don't want to blow away something that you didn't mean to. It was like, whoops, there was actually contents in that directory. I didn't want to do that. All right, next up we have rm for remove files. So let's say we want to get rid of test2.txt, just rm, and it is gone. Now, we just tried to remove the directory, but we couldn't. The project directory. There is two flags we can pass to it, -r and f, which is recursive and force. So now if we remove the project directory with r-f, it is gone. So if you have a directory that you want to get rid of that includes all the files in there, you just want to blow it away, it's rm-rf. Another basic command we have is cp or copy, which will allow you to copy files and or directories. So let me go ahead and make dir-p the project again, just so we have something to work with here, source and build. And let me touch in the project some files. Let's make our readme.md and a .env again. Okay, so let's say we wanted to copy our readme and put it in the current directory. If you remember, the dot is current directory, so we can just pass a dot there and it's going to copy the readme right into this current directory. We want to get rid of that one now. Let me make a directory. Actually, we got test2. What's in test2 again? Test another. Okay, that's fine. So you can also recursively copy all files from one directory to another, but there's a way to do it, depending on how you want to do it. So if we do copy, you need a -r, otherwise, actually, let me show you without -r. So we want to copy the project and put it into test2. No -r was specified, so it's omitting the directory. So what's in test2? I keep forgetting that. Nothing. So if we do cp-r project into test2. So we look in test2 now, we have the project and everything's in there. All right, let me just remove that. But let's say you didn't want to copy the folder, you wanted the contents of the folder. Well, we do the same thing, -R, we're going to do project, and then we're going to pass a star to it, which is all. And then we're going to pass that to test directory, and let's put that in test another. Now, if we look in test2, test another, it's going to have the build, the readme. So there you go. 2 ways to copy contents of a directory. The folder itself, if you don't use a /star, it will just copy that folder as long as you pass -R, or the just the contents of that folder, not including the top directory. If you want all those, it's /star at the end and then the place you want them to go. All right, another useful command is mv for move. Now, often this could just be used to rename a file. So if we have test1.txt, we want to rename that to test.txt. It is now moved from test1 to test1.txt just to test. You can also move entire directories. So let's say we want test2 to actually be test. It just moves the directory, so everything in test is still intact. It is just moved. And another handy command is echo. So you can just echo out hello world. Wow, the easiest hello world program in the world, right? Awesome. But it's also useful for things like your environment variables like path. So the path is a special environment variable that will, when you're executing a program, it looks in every one of these directories for a executable. So I created a set resolution in my local bin. So now it will find it. So when I'm doing screen records, I set the resolution to 1920 by 1080 because I have the Framework laptop and it's a funky screen size. I forget the aspect ratio, but it's kind of funky for YouTube. So before I open up OBS, I want the 16 by 9 aspect ratio. So I have a handy script just for that. And almost all the other commands are just going to be in anything here like ls. Actually, if you want to know where a executable is, it's which. Okay, well, that's not very handy. So let's say we want to know which is CD. It's a built-in. Yeah, some of these are built-in. They're not actually executables. Let's say I want to know which curl. So it's in user bin curl. So that should be on my path. There it is. That way it knows where to find curl. That was a long aside. We were on echo. You can also set name. You can set variables. Let's say it's Jim Halpert. And then you can echo out hello name. Hello Jim Halpert. Awesome. All right, we're going to level up a little bit. Now we're going to go just a little bit more advanced. First one is cat, which is for concatenating files. So cat and a file. If we looked in test.txt, it should be stuff hello. That's pretty simple. All right, when you're wanting to read files that are very large, but you don't want all the contents, there are 2 commands. First one is head. So actually, we're going to look at a var log, let's see, pacman log. I need my super user password. So I believe it is like 10 lines. It just takes the top part of the log file or the file and spits those out into the terminal. But you can also pass in a number. So let's say we only want to see 5. It's only going to give us 5, and you can go more if you want. So we can go 20, for example. 10. We can go 20, and it's going to give us 20 lines from that file. I mentioned there was 2. There's also tail, sudo tail var log pacman log. So it's going to give us the bottom 10, the very last 10 lines of that file. And just like head, you can pass in lines, and let's say we only want 5, and it's going to give us the last 5. Another useful command is less, where less is more. So instead of just head, using cat or head, you can actually go into an interactive mode of a file. So we want less. I might need sudo for this. Let's just look at pacman.log. Oh, it lets me do it. So it puts everything kind of in a buffer where standard output and I can read, and I'm using J. It's a Vim motion, or you can use your up and down arrows. And then you can also search, so that's slash or question mark installed. It's going to say, oh, there's installed. It's like, yeah, did I install i3? Yeah, there we go. That's pretty useful. You can also pipe in from a command into something like less. So let's say nmcli c show, and we can pipe that into less, and it shows my 3 different connection devices into less, and there was only 3 lines, so there's not much to do here, but I can quit out of that with Q. All right, another handy and very useful command that a lot of people are going to use very often is grep. It's a search into text. It finds patterns within files with regular expression. So if I do grep and I want to know the line number, and I want to say, where is a string of hello? And I forgot to do probably recursive. There we go. So in text or test, txt, at line 1, we have hello. Pretty handy. So if you have a bunch of files and you're trying to search for a specific pattern, let's say you had a command run from a script and it errored out and it's kind of cryptic, you can grep that file looking for that line or a couple of the phrase, and then go to that file and try to figure out what went wrong. It's pretty useful. So, just like anything, yeah, there's a man page. So you saw me do R, which is going to be recursive. There's also ignore case if you know what the word is, but you're not sure if it was uppercase for certain things, camel case, whatever. And then there is, where is recursive -R? It's in there, but -R is recursive. So if you have a whole bunch of files and directories, it will recursively search through everything to find the search term. And much like with less, we can actually pass in or pipe to grep. So if we do nmcli show and then grep, and I'm looking for, I better do ignore case, I'm looking for zap, it's going to show me, it highlighted in red the word zap, and it gave me the entire line. All right, let me make a test1 txt and just put in hello and hi, because the next tool is a diff. So if you have 2 files and you're not sure what's the difference between them, you can use diff. So I'm going to use test diff and then pass both those into the command, and it's going to show you a little thing that looks like this. So it shows you the difference between the files. So the first line of test txt is stuff hello, and this one has hello and hi in 2 different lines. Kind of useful, but if you have Vim installed, vimdiff is even better. So vimdiff text test1 and test. So it opens up in Vim in a side-by-side, and it shows you the difference between the files. And you could actually go in here and actually write into the file to make them the same. So as you see the 2 lines next to each other that are high, they are not highlighted, meaning they are the same. I think that is very useful. And QA to quit all. Great. All right, bonus round. This one is a little bit more complicated, but once you start doing a lot of scripting and doing things within the Linux shell environment, commands like awk can be very useful. So we're going to go back to our nmcli show, and we're going to grep for zap, and then we're going to pipe that into awk. And we want to print out, let's say we're only looking for the UUID. Yeah, because I forgot the to ignore case. There we go. So we got the first one, which is the name. The second one is the UUID. So we could actually capture all of this and say UUID equals $. We want to go to the end and wrap that in parentheses. So now if we echo out UUID, we get the UUID, which is incredibly handy for scripting. Awesome. Way to level up by doing. You're well on your way to being super comfortable in the shell and just being an overall wizard. Anyways, thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe, like, share, and comment to defeat that algo monster.